You want to win baseball games? You don't throw 76 pitches in 3 innings, and you don't get thrown out at third base to kill a rally. When you do, you lose.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds. What's up? This is Jeff. He's Steve. We're addicted to this stinking baseball team, the Cincinnati Reds, and we've taken that addiction and we've turned it into information for you here on the Locked On Reds podcast. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day, rain or shine, whether the Reds come back or whether the Reds walk home all of the runs. Thank you so much for joining us here today on today's Locked On Reds podcast. We are going to get into what might have been more of a frustrating loss than Game 1 in Seattle. Actually, I think it is. I think we're going to call it more of a frustrating loss than Game 1 in Seattle because Hunter Greene was frustrating. Elly did a frustrating thing. Is it something he should fix? Is it something he should change? We'll get into that in a little bit. And dear God, can Andrew Abbott just salvage this? Can he save us? Can he help us? Help us. Help him. Help him. Help us. Get out of Seattle with a win. Steve, this game. Oh my gosh. Late night Reds game 2. There were about 700 walks. There were about 400 hard hit balls by the Reds that found Seattle Mariners. Okay, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but it felt like that because my goodness, and we'll get into the Elly of it all when it comes to base running and things like that, but we've got to start first with Hunter Greene because we're talking about Hunter Greene. We're saying, man, this is career start number 50. He's thrown, whatever it is, like 400 professional innings between the minor leagues and the major leagues and things like this. He's still working on it. He's still coming into his own. He's still figuring things out. But he chose to figure things out in such a frustrating way on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say. And of course, the first one is today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets back guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. And I'm going to get started right now, Jeff, because Hunter Greene's performance was unacceptable. You cannot throw 76 pitches through 3 innings and expect to be productive. And then, and to have the nerve to create a extended conversation with David Bell when he's taking him out of the game to try and lobby for another inning. Why in the world would Hunter Greene think that he warranted another inning? He continues to miss the point. He continues to miss the key things that he needs to do, which is be pitch efficient. Stop walking guys. Stop taking everybody to a 3-2 count and hope by all hopes of hope that you can find a put away pitch. Start pitching to contact, miss the barrels, get the outs, and get out of the inning. This is not a complicated process. It's not some kind of new revolutionary way to pitch a Major League Baseball game. Hunter Greene has been given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to fix this. He has all the talent in the world. I'm not saying that he doesn't. He has the potential and the ability and the ceiling to be a premier starter in this league. He has not come anywhere close to any of those things for the Cincinnati Reds. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us to watch the lack of development. Look, I'm not expecting him to turn around and be Cy Young tomorrow. We talked about this, Jeff. He doesn't have to be Cy Young tomorrow. He has to make measured improvements each time he goes out. And I'm just simply not seeing that.
It feels like every time out there he is pitching for a strikeout. He is searching for that perfect pitch, that highlight that Pitching Ninja on Twitter is going to turn into a GIF and say, boy, oh boy, look at this pitch. It's so beautiful. He just needs to get out. His best start so far this year was a start in which he did not average a strikeout per inning. And as sexy as strikeouts are, and as much as they get you paid and all this other stuff, it just feels like right now that's the hang up, that he's going for strikeouts, that it's not about, can we get in and out of this inning so quickly? I mean, it was just constant, like, okay, well, there's 20 pitches in this inning, 20 pitches in that inning. Like, we got to have an inning where it's quick. And there just didn't seem to be that type of performance in him. And I'll push back slightly. I don't necessarily think that there's a gall to talk to David Bell. I'm kind of in for a player advocating for himself like that, but I'm also very much in with the way that David Bell did not move and the way that David Bell stood his ground. And he said, no, you have not been good enough to get a fifth inning. And I think it's funny because we talk about the win-loss stat for a pitcher being a very superfluous thing because a starting pitcher has to go 5 innings. But it felt like in this particular case, it's not always this way, but it felt like in this particular case, Hunter Greene was lobbying for this because if you go 5, you're up for the win. And I don't think David Bell was ready to give him that opportunity based on the first 4 innings. And I applaud him for moving, even though Emilio Pagan couldn't throw strikes, but that's not David Bell's fault.
No, you're absolutely right. David Bell handled it correctly by not letting Hunter Greene go back out there. And I don't know that that's not some evolution on David Bell's part, because everybody knows David Bell is a player's manager, and he tries to do everything he can do to create the best scenarios for the players. And I feel like maybe last night, David Bell actually protected the player from himself. But as bad as Hunter Greene was with the walks, 3, and, he struck out 8. And I mean, I'm kind of ready to move beyond the strikeout total thing also, Jeff. Much like I don't care about wins and losses for a pitcher and a stat line. I'm starting to not care about strikeouts. I mean, strikeouts are great. They're an out, whatever. But if you strike out 8, but can only muster 4 innings for your team, then I don't feel like that's a successful outing. I just don't. Here's a problem. Yeah. Here's a problem. Of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitchers in this game, all but one of them issued at least 1 free pass during the course of this game. Hunter Greene walked 3. Emilio Pagan walked 2. Fernando Cruz walked 1. Brent Suter walked 1. Only Justin Wilson managed to not give a free base during the course of his outing. So that is a problem. That has been a problem. It continues to be a problem, and it's an adjustment that needs to be made. These pitchers have to dial it in. Now, listen, I know some of the calls at home plate last night, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a different strike zone for the Reds in the
I don't know if that umpire was watching the same game that we were watching on several occasions. He just flat out missed things badly. I'm looking forward to seeing his scorecard later today to see exactly what that looks like. But by and large, for the entire season thus far, walks have been a problem.
And look, I get it. Friend of the podcast, Carlos Guevara, has told us before on many occasions that he hates it whenever people yell, just throw strikes. But you know what I was yelling at the television last night, Steve? Just throw strikes, and in other words as well. But it's a family podcast. We don't want to say those words. But my goodness, do I want to say those words when I'm thinking about this game, because it was so just, it was, pull your fingernails out, gouge your eyes out, like such a crappy game when it came to pitching for anybody that came into this game for the Reds. I mean, Justin Wilson was fine. Brent Suter, he actually pitched pretty decently as well. But
it wasn't all bad, right? I mean, the walks were bad. Emilio Pagan was not great, but Wilson, an inning of work, walked none, struck out 1. Fernando Cruz, while he did walk 1, he struck out 2. And Brent Suter pitched 2 innings, walking 1, striking out 3. So those are still decent performances by this bullpen. But, this is a bullpen that we asked him to cover, 6 innings yesterday? Nick Martinez covered 4 by himself.
2023 there.
So it did, and today I saw this comment come across Twitter X, Jeff, and it resonates just a little bit. Right now, when Hunter Greene starts, it feels like a bullpen day because you can't count on him to get deep in a game. When you see Hunter Greene's name penciled in right now, you're expecting to see 5 or 6 pitchers come into the game for the Reds. And that is not a great starting point, a great mindset to be in when you look at who your starting pitcher is that day.
Yeah, and that's just where my just absolute frustration and consternation comes with this game because it was, what was the stat? It was 15 innings, 13 walks in this series. And it was not toward the end of the game. It was before the end of the game. Obviously, they play more than 15 innings in 2 games, but that's the difference for me. I mean, Frankie Montas, whenever he walked guys, he gave up homers, walks haunted almost immediately. Hunter Greene walked guys, didn't haunt immediately on him, but that was the difference. And then Emilio Pagan walked in the go-ahead run. And then you had that, and it was just...
All right, Jeff, this is what I know. The same as you can't issue free passes to the opposing team and expect to get out of a ballpark with a win, you cannot get thrown out at third base and kill a rally and expect your team to be able to come from behind. And coming up, we're going to dig in to the base running blunder, the toot bland, if you will, that Elly De La Cruz committed in Seattle last night. We've got that coming up next.
Baseball season is laboring on, and don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your prize pick entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your prize picks entry today. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks. They're America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can earn some serious cash with your favorite baseball players. We're talking 100 times your money on Prize Picks when we're talking about serious cash here. And all you need is as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 like that. You can put together a list that includes Frankie Montas strikeouts. You can look at Ellie De La Cruz steals, Spencer Steer RBIs, and so much more. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, download the app, use code LOCKEDONMLB for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
All right, everybody, listen up. Check this out. Big news. I have been tracking the leaderboards every single day. I'm keeping my eye on the scores, putting all of my heart into it, and I am super pumped to announce I finally made it to the top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on the classic Monopoly game, and you can play it anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent for your iconic properties. You can go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. Jeff has gone bankrupt. He always goes bankrupt, especially when he takes the over. My favorite part is these leaderboards, though. So make sure you get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go today. Now at the App Store or Google Play. Just download Monopoly Go. It's free at the App Store and Google Play.
You can catch every pitch of the Reds hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. And also, by the way, tonight, really great event going on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 feed. It's the Locked On NFL Mock Draft. It's coming up live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time streaming. It's actually a 6-parter. We got 6 episodes coming up.
Is James Rapine trading all of the Bengals picks so that he can draft with Ricky Williams? Is that happening?
Unconfirmed. I'll have to see. We might have to watch that one. I think it'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I have heard that someone's trading up to pick a quarterback, though. You're going to want to check out and see who that is. It's not going to be the Bengals. We're not going to go that crazy here. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft is today at 7 Eastern Time, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Steve, one of the big things that led to a loss for the Cincinnati Reds was Elly getting gunned down at third base. It was a single, so there were runners on first and second. You had Jake Fraley on second base. You had Elly on first base. The Reds were down 3-1 at this point, and Nick Martini came in as a pinch hitter. He laced a single into left center field. Looked like an easy RBI because Jake Fraley was going to easily score from second. Elly De La Cruz attempted to go first to third. Julio Rodriguez gunned him down, which, by the way, I mean, you probably, if you haven't seen the video, it's all over social media. It's gone viral. He throws a strike, not even a bounce, straight to the third baseman. Third baseman applies just an amazing tag to get Elly at third for the third and final out of that inning before Jake Fraley crosses home plate. So not only do they not get the one run, they get no runs from this play.
I've been thinking long and hard whether or not I want to be mad about this, because I've said many times, and you've said, we've talked about this, we like the aggressiveness on the base pass. And these are the things that happen when you're aggressive. You sometimes get thrown out. So it took me a minute to decide whether I was upset with Elly or not. And I have landed in a place where I am upset with Elly for a couple reasons. While he is a tremendous talent, while he has tremendous speed, while he can be the great disruptor on the base pass, he also has to be smart about it. And look, I knew that Julio Rodriguez was playing in the outfield. Jeff, did you know that Julio Rodriguez was playing in the outfield? So it stands to reason that Elly should have known that it was Julio Rodriguez playing in the outfield. And yet he still tried to test that arm and go first to third. And in doing so, made a poor slide at third base, made it easy for the third baseman to apply the tag, ran the Reds right out of a rally. I am certain if Hunter Greene could have been at 50 pitches through 4, and if Elly De La Cruz does not make that base running blunder, the Reds win this game. Those two pivotal moments in the game are what took the Reds right out of this. The Reds, I believe, would have been able to win the game. Fraley's run would have counted. Elly would have scored. I'm convinced of it. I'm not mad at Jake Fraley. I've seen some stuff out there about the fact that Jake Fraley was coasting across home plate, and if he had just been busting it in, that run would have counted. Well, okay, but by all accounts, he should have been able to walk in. He should, I was not expecting Elly to be thrown out at third base. I was not expecting that Fraley needed to be busting it home as quickly as possible. So I'm not mad at Jake Fraley, but I'm a little disappointed with Elly De La Cruz's decision-making in that moment. Now, none of that's to say that I want him to stop running. None of that's to say that I want him to stop being aggressive. I do want him to think a little bit. I want him to be smarter about it, because in this particular moment, I think better decisions could have been made.
Firstly, I want to say tip of the cap to Julio Rodriguez. I have headphones on, so that didn't work. But tip of the cap.
Well, at least you didn't throw your hat again.
Yeah. I tried to do that earlier and I shut my computer down, so we won't do that again. But that was a fantastic play. If I were Elly De La Cruz, I'd do it again. Because I think if you do it again, does Julio Rodriguez make that throw? Maybe. Does the third baseman make that tag? Maybe. I mean, if you watch that replay, 80% of that play is Julio Rodriguez's throw from center field. The other 20% is the way that the third baseman caught that ball and whipped around and tagged Elly in the back. Because if he doesn't do those things, if he doesn't field the ball cleanly, if he kind of bobbles it on the catch, or if he doesn't whip around, if he whips around the other way to try and tag him, Elly is safe. This is a 1% play. This might even be a less than 1% play of how they were able to get Elly at third base. And I feel like in this scenario, Elly is safe 9 times out of 10. So tip of the cap to Julio Rodriguez.
Well, let me ask you this.
And look, I'm not saying that it didn't affect the game. It affected the game. It killed the game. It killed the rally for the Reds. The Reds should have won had he not been thrown out there. But there is no universe where he does not run there.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any problem with how he went into third base then? Because it was clear that it was going to be a close play. And if you watch the replay, he slides into the outfield front corner of third base rather than maybe taking a head first slide into the infield front corner of third base, where he could have reached out with his right hand and still been in the baseline. and avoided that sweep tag. I feel like if you're going to be that aggressive, you have to try and help yourself a little bit. And seems to me that Elly ran right at the third baseman. I don't know why you would do that unless he just completely misjudged what Julio was going to be able to do out there in the outfield.
I do think, and Elly has said this before, Elly is always looking for the next base. And I think at this point in time, he was thinking, if Julio tries to throw me out, there's a good possibility it passes the third baseman and I can round third and score. And so I think that there's that reason that he does a feet first slide where he can just pop back up and get going. And if he does a head first slide, he's saying, I am just going into third base. Elly is aggressive 100% of the time when it comes to base running. So I think that that's probably where the mindset goes. Do I agree with you? If he does a head first slide, he's safe. Absolutely. Because there's no realm of possibility where the guy grabs the ball, spins back around to make the tag on his back, and then somehow realizes he has to go low and tags him on the leg or something like that. I think if he slides head first, he's safe. But I still believe that even though, yes, this game did hinge on this play, and because of this play, it felt like the Reds killed any rally possible, although they did have the bases loaded in the top of the ninth. I still think he should do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't want Elly to stop running. I let me say that 2 or 3 more times. I don't want Elly to stop running. I do not want Elly to stop running. But I want him to get better in his decision-making while he's running. I think that there's something to be learned from the way he went into third base. I think there's something to be learned from making a decision based on not only your own individual talent, because I know that Elly believes in himself and I believe in Elly. I know that Elly thinks he can get there. And I believe that Elly can get there most of the times, but I think he also needed in that moment to maybe show a little respect to the fact of the outfielder that he was dealing with at the time. So I think there's some learning. I think there's some learning potential here is what I'm saying, Jeff. I don't want Elly to change his game. I'm definitely not saying that, but I want him to learn from what happened in last night's game and be able to refine what he does to get better, because he's going to be a force on the base pass for years in Cincinnati. And I want him to continue to evolve that skill.
And I feel like this was the same inning that he had the running catch to rob Spencer Steer of a surefire double as well. I think Julio Rodriguez went Super Saiyan out in the field.
Well, no, if there's an MVP of, game number whatever in April, it was Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, that was, and it was all him, and he really didn't do anything with the bat. It was all with his glove and with his arm, and that it was very impressive to watch. Just frustrating from our point of view because, well, it cost the Reds the game. But I know this, Steve, there's one more game in this series coming up later today, and Andrew Abbott has something to say about that.
It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and there's so much action over at FanDuel. You can put your little bet on every single game out there. Right now, new customers at FanDuel are going to get $150 in bonus bets back, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose, after you make your first bet. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, or all of them, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. And I mean easy to use. You can find everything you're looking for on the FanDuel app very, very easily. It's very easy to place your bets. It's very easy to track in real time and see how you are doing, how much money you have won, how you have put your sports knowledge to work for you to help build your bank account. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win with $150 back in bonus bets, guaranteed at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, if you can't catch the broadcast on television, don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, make sure you bookmark si.com/MLB/Reds for written content about your Cincinnati Reds. Jeff's writing over there. I'm writing over there. James Rapine, Audie Elmore, Rick Uccino, and Caleb Sisk, all covering the Reds in written form. Great stuff for you to follow in between games and in between podcast episodes. Start here, then go there. All right, Jeff. Andrew Abbott is going to have to be the reset button on this. I see over here in our rundown, in our today's show preview, save us, Andrew Abbott. Is this an Obi-Wan Kenobi nod over here in the rundown section?
Yes, he's our only hope. When it comes to this outing, he just needs to copy paste what he did in Chicago. And it's not as if he set the world on fire in Chicago. He just threw 7 innings of really, really darn good baseball. And I think that he can do that again, because the Seattle Mariners lineup has not hit the ball well. It continues to not hit the ball well during this series. It's just the Reds have gifted them so many base runners that when they do hit the ball, there's someone to come around and score. That's been the biggest difference so far in this series, is that when the Reds get hits, no one's on base to come around. And when the Mariners get hits, there's 2 or 3 guys on base to come around and get plenty of runs, so that they have all the runs they need to win. Andrew Abbott did a very good job of limiting stressful situations against the White Sox in his last outing, and he has done pretty decent in all of his outings so far this year as far as being efficient with his pitches. Just continue to do that. I'm not asking for any Herculean effort. I'm not asking for any sort of renaissance on the mound. Copy paste, baby, and the Reds will get out of here without being swept.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In his first start, Jeff, on April 1st, 5 1/3 innings. So he got into the 6th. His second start, April 7th, 5 innings. That start in Chicago, you're talking about 7 innings. Big takeaway from that particular game, Jeff. He struck out 3, but he walked 0. In fact, in 17 1/3 innings pitched, he's only walked 4 batters. So you're absolutely right. You have to limit the base runners so that if you do make a mistake, you can recover from it. You don't, make mistake upon mistake and just dig yourself into a hole that you can't get out of. I like what Andrew Abbott has done so far, and you're absolutely right. Copy paste is what we want from his stat line. 6 or 7 innings. He can allow a few hits, 4 hits in that Chicago game. He could give up the same, only allowed 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, no walks. Right now he's sitting on a 2.6 ERA. I know there's some people that still pay attention to that number. I like what Andrew Abbott has done thus far. And it's funny to me that for all 3 of those starts, he was the guy that we were all going, is he going to get sent down to Louisville? Is this going to be the guy that gets removed from the rotation? And right now we're looking at him to stop the bleeding. He's the guy that the Reds are going to hopefully turn to and be able to get out of Seattle and avoid a sweep. When we did the preview for this series, Jeff, I talked about the fact that the Seattle Mariners were actually better than they looked on paper. They were better than what their record said they were, but that I still expected the Reds to win 2 of 3 and maybe even be able to steal a sweep. That thing's been reversed on us now. They absolutely have to avoid a sweep. The schedule is about to get really hard, really fast. They need to pick up a win in this game and get their butts back to Great American Ballpark and get it together a little bit.
Yeah, because looking at these first 2 games, I don't want to take anything away from plays that Julio Rodriguez made or homers that they hit. The Reds beat themselves. The Reds have been walking guys and been and just have not gotten the fine details right. The Mariners have gotten a few details right, and that's all they've needed, because the Reds have constantly handed them stuff. Just don't hand them stuff in this final game. And I think Andrew Abbott can hang on to that. And while we're at it, there's one more thing, because this lineup has still hit the ball hard.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried at all with the fact that there's been no results?
There's a couple guys individually that I'm worried about. Jonathan India's batting average is now a big time 169. He's having some problems right now. Struck out twice. One of those I really don't think was a fair strikeout. If you go back and watch it,
gosh,
it was terrible.
Pitch was
call.
3 inches inside. The umpire had a thing to do after the game or something. I don't know.
So individually, I'm worried he's in a little bit of a mini slump. I think he'll come out of it. There are some guys I'm excited about. We haven't talked a lot about Jake Fraley. We've talked about him some, but he really looks to be a guy that's going to continue to break out. CES is on the verge of putting it together, and I still think Tyler Stevenson is also on the verge of putting it all together. So I don't know if worried is the right word. There are a couple guys individually I need to see turn a corner, and I would like to see this lineup click as a whole. I think they have the ability to score a bunch of runs in a hurry, and I'd like to see them do that when they get back starting today rather. And then I would like to see that carry through to this series at Great American Ballpark when they're back at home. Put up some runs, put up some wins before they go on the road to face the defending world champion.
The Reds have a chance to salvage this. They can salvage a trip to Seattle, and then this will be a winning road trip, and they can come back and they can face the Angels and start off the homestand well against a team that's kind of scuffling in their own right. The Reds kind of need this game, and it's not a must win. There's no such thing as a must win in April, but they really, really, absolutely, positively, unequivocally need to win this game.
No, they do. It's a big difference. I mean, it's the difference between them coming back from this road trip, Jeff, being a 500 ball club, or them coming back from this road trip and being 2 games above 500. Right now, they're only a game and a half back in the National League Central. It's early. The Brewers have 10 wins. The Pirates have 11 wins. The Cubs have 10 wins. The Reds have 9 wins. They need to win this game. They have to stay on pace. You're absolutely right. I know it's difficult to scoreboard watch in April. You will lose your mind if you start scoreboard watching every day in April. But it is important to kind of note right now, a few weeks into April, as we're kind of making the turn to the back half of April, where everybody's at right now in the division. The Reds can keep themselves a couple games above 500. This is what we talked about, right? And get all the way through April, all the way through May, and be at 500 or better. Now we're talking about a team that's going to be able to make a playoff push as players come back from injury. So they're still right where they need to be. This is not the team we thought we were going to get. This is not the team we thought we were going to have. And yet here they are, still with the potential to be 2 games over 500. So all is not lost. All hope is not lost. Andrew Abbott's going to save the day today. The Reds are going to get a win. They're going to avoid the sweep, and they're going to get back to Great American Ballpark so we can talk about some winning baseball.
And that is how we're going to end today's podcast. Thanks, everybody, for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you are subscribed and that you're following the podcast on your favorite podcasting app and on YouTube, because we are going to be with you every single day all throughout the season, whether the Reds win, whether they lose, whether it's a dramatic comeback, whether it's an absolute disaster. We are going to be here with you every single day all the way through. And coming up on tomorrow's podcast, I'm going to be here with you with, I believe it's Ty Gonzalez from Locked On Mariners as we recap this series. Hopefully, we'll be talking about the Reds salvaging the series here on the third game. Probably be gushing a little bit about Julio Rodriguez. He loved some things that he saw, if you follow him on Twitter, from Ellie De La Cruz. So we'll be talking about that as well. So make sure you join us tomorrow. Steve, let's take us away.
All right. Make sure you tune in for Jeff's crossover with Locked On Mariners. And programming note, Friday, we're going to go live again. Jeff and I will get you set at 3 p.m. Eastern time for the weekend series out at Great American Ballpark. Hopefully, we're talking about a team that's 2 games over 500. We're going to gather up all of the news, all the notes, all the rumors, all the info. We're going to bring it back right here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.